As part of the International Year of Tibet, the monks of the Namgyal Monastery, re-established in Dharamsala, India, traveled throughout the United States. Their purpose was to raise awareness about the culture of Tibet and to bring a blessing through the creation of sacred sand paintings. During the month of August 1991, they constructed the Kalachakra sound mandala in Buffalo, New York. This mandala is dedicated to physical balance and world peace. The source of all being flows from the center. What mystics and lamas aspire to, children seem to already know. A mandala is a geometric representation of the cosmos. The Sanskrit manda means essence. La means container. If we could see clearly, as the seers have always seen, there would be no need for mandalas. Experience would be understood, continually proceeding from and returning to the one source, the center of being. What do we see in a circle? To see is to see the whole of one's experience and to know. Throughout time, we have endeavored to understand our existence and the universe around us in a cyclical fashion. Cultures everywhere have developed metaphysical systems, the circle being a universal motif. Work begins on the sacred Kalachakra mandala. The monks begin the process by measuring out and drawing the architectural lines using a ruler, compass, and chalk. Mandalas may be created with paint, flowers, dyed rice, precious stones. In this case, it will be entirely made of sand. The purpose, meanings, and formal measurements involved in the spiritual art of sand painting were taught by Buddha in India in the 6th century BC. For 25 centuries, this tradition has been passed down in a direct line from teacher to student. The 1949 Chinese invasion of Tibet and the subsequent destruction of the country nearly ended this tradition. These monks from the Namgyal Monastery are part of the Tibetan refugee community struggling to save its culture. The word mandala comes from the Sanskrit, meaning circle. In Tibetan, it's kilkor. It is a symbolic universe of cosmic forces used in the ritual practice of meditation and healing, a mystical drawing of lines and circles. Geometric patterns form the ground plan of a sacred mansion with a foundation, 4 entrances, and walls.
Humankind is distinguished from other species of our planet by our curiosity, our desire to understand our place in existence in our environment. There are many ways that we have to pursue this curiosity through art, perhaps the mandala, through science, other ways to model our relationship to reality, or what reality is. One may consider that there are 2 approaches to understanding our universe. There's the more intuitive approach represented through art and mysticism by the creation of the mandala. The second approach would be the scientific approach, which is a more logical, mechanistic approach. Both of these approaches are stimulated by the observation in nature of a variety of geometric forms. There's the snowflake, the honeycomb, the conch shell, the center of a sunflower. There are spirals, there are equilateral triangles, there are hexagons. These are the things that lead man to look further into nature's architecture for the answers of our origins. Our earliest ancestors attempted to make sense of the various geometric forms that were found in nature. This attempt is obvious in the architecture of all ancient civilizations. In this attempt, the significance of the equilateral triangle became evident. If we take this flat shape and we bend it up, we come up with the simplest of the 5 platonic solids. It's the tetrahedron. This shape, it turns out, is extremely significant to an understanding of biology. All things that live are known to have at their core the basic building block of hydrocarbons. If we consider each one of these 4 spheres to be a hydrogen, then where they all join would be the carbon. This would be the simplest of the hydrocarbons. Now, it's the equilateral triangle as it relates to this that brings out the cosmic architecture, the idea of God or the divine having a geometric scheme for our existence. If we think about the equilateral triangle represented here, and if it were to be translated around, rotating around 1, we would find the hexagon has a relationship to both the sphere and to the equilateral triangle. In the most ancient times, God was represented by the equilateral triangle surrounded by a circle.
From spiral galaxies to the microcosmos, mandala patterns form the DNA molecule, electricity, the pattern of a sound wave, the cross-section of a twig, the basic structures of nature, all part of the interconnected web of existence. The monks share their message of peace with the community. Their presence created interest in Tibetan culture and philosophy.
Oh, sorry.
We're making this design in Buffalo Museum.
Wow, look at the design image.
Under the direction of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet, these monks have come to share this ancient and sacred knowledge. This mandala is part of the Kalachakra initiation, one of the most important teachings in Tibetan Buddhism. This initiation involves the participants' visualization of themselves as an ideal being, a Buddha. Kalachakra means wheel of time and celebrates the cycles of life, as well as the methods to transcend them. The mandala ultimately leads its user to a realization of the source of energy within. The colored sand is applied through the end of a metal funnel, which is scraped with another funnel to release a fine stream of sand. Since each grain of sand is charged with the blessings of the ritual, the entire sand mandala embodies a vast store of spiritual energy. Only recently has permission been given to perform this ritual outside the full initiation. This is to focus world attention on the destruction of Tibet by China. The lamas realize that this sacred knowledge may vanish due to the decimation of their culture. Through wider exposure, they hope to keep it alive.
The mandalas are primarily used as meditative visual aids, drawing the disciples' awareness into a central point. The central point is represented by the Buddha, or the Hindu god Brahma, with the idea that through identification with this principal deity, the disciple will achieve enlightenment. Mandalas are designed to draw the disciples' awareness away from the outer periphery, which represents the many worldly forms of appearances, to the central point, which houses the deity. The idea being for the disciple to then identify with that deity within, keeping in mind that all the figures and beings in the mandala are really symbolic representations of states of consciousness. They are not to be identified with literally as a fact, but as something to be made transparent, to push or move beyond the symbol to the reality to which they point. Psychologically speaking, mandalas are a process that help to bring together the opposing tendencies or dipolar elements of the psyche. They help to recognize, harmonize, and integrate the archetypes of the collective unconscious, those primordial images that Jung speaks of. The mandala itself being a symbol of the self-archetype, that great organizing principle within the psyche. The final idea being to assist in the journey towards completion. Now, in our discussion of mandalas, we must also include the spiral, as it too contains the circle motif. However, the two are a little bit different. Mandalas are like a great cosmic blueprint of our psychological energies, whereas the spiral, having an active component, maps our spiritual journeys. Now, sometimes on our journeys, we're like a needle that gets stuck in a groove on a record, just going around and around in a circle, seeming to play the same old tunes, nothing new coming about it. Well, this is because we need to learn to recognize the patterns within. By patterns, I mean the emotionally charged experiences that then become our actions and our thoughts. Once we recognize certain patterns, that is, well, sometimes in life we have experiences that cause us frustration. We always seem to go to work never having any enthusiasm for the task at hand. We must ask ourselves, well, why is this? Maybe it's the second or third time we've changed the job, and yet we still feel this way. Why? Well, that's because we're repeating the same old life patterns. We need to get to the core, to the heart of what emotionally is motivating us and inspiring us in life, and then by understanding that, be able to make the changes. So the spiral is unique because it's like a great mountain that we climb upwards towards the summit. And as we're climbing higher and higher, we expand our consciousness, our awareness, opening ourselves up to the many possibilities that await us. this is what life is about, this is what the mandala is about, to expand our consciousness, to be able to understand who we are and our place in the world and the many possibilities that are available to us at any time if only we become aware of them. And all of this leads towards being healthier minded and better integrated human beings.
The exquisite order that appears in nature seems inspired by some divine plan beyond the bounds of time and space. From the journey of the planets circling the sun to the energy centers of the chakra system, we are like participants in a cosmic dance, drawn into a pattern of whirling forces. Transformed, we become pure light, illuminating all. From the sacred geometry revealed in Renaissance paintings to the alchemists' theories presented in European mandalas, we travel to a realm beyond the finite and the infinite. A blessing into magnificence rewards our spiritual quest. Along the pilgrim's path lies a supreme and selfless understanding. From the Archimedean spiral born of the golden mean to the Buddhist knowledge of ultimate reality, we become aware of our harmonious place in the order of the universe. Centering, healing, and growth are the lessons of the mandala. The principle of the center is one, through which all is uttered and through which all must pass. From the wheel of life, held captive by Yama, Lord of Death, we see the realms of birth and death, the cycle of perpetual suffering, the realm of the gods, the world of the rebel gods, the animal world, the hells of fire and ice, the ghosts of greed, and the human realm. Through the wisdom of impermanence, we journey from ignorance to nirvana. The monks join a memorial of the 1945 atomic bombing of Hiroshima. Handmade paper lanterns symbolize the souls of those who perished. The lanterns were decorated with messages for world peace. Each mandala is a sacred mansion, the home of a deity. Deities embody qualities from compassion to heightened consciousness and bliss. There are over 700 deities in this mandala. Each symbolizes various manifestations of consciousness and reality, all part of the ultimate wisdom of the Kalachakra deity who resides in the center. The palace is divided into 4 quadrants, each with walls, gates, and a center. Each quadrant has a specific color representing the elements. The north is white, representing water, which symbolizes the body. Black in the east is associated with the wind and symbolizes mind. The south is red, its element is fire, which symbolizes speech. The west is yellow, the element of the earth. symbolizing pristine consciousness. A mandala is a visual representation of the Buddhist path, from its beginning to complete enlightenment. The deity in the center symbolizes the goal, the achievement of Buddhahood.
My name is Steffan, and when we learned this, starting that time, before that we memorized the ritual. It takes 3 years course, and then we give it 3 times test. After that, we starting the learning that sand painting, and at the same time we learning the instruments and the Buddha scriptures. So that mandala is the first. We all different mandala. We memorize the measurements. Then we one by one, like a particular this sand culture, sand painting, we learn on the basement to how to make a measurement, how comes for the all set. So first we learn not only one time, it's a daily to practice to make a measurement. Then when they get it knows very well, then after we try to make the figures, to how to learn make the figures like a design, like a lotus flower, any kind of the like animals, like elephants. These figure will be learned like upside down, not on the just front of. We learn always this design learned by the upside down. So it takes long time. So after that, we from our teachers we teach us the significance, what meaning of the mandala, and all the significance they teach us. Then after 3 times we have give a test. First time we give a test for the memorizing for the measurements. After we give a the test for the design of figures. The third last one is we give exam for the significance. So we have 6 different type of mandala. So it takes 3 years course. So after that, when finish our exam, then we starting for making these sand paintings.
In Tibetan folklore, it is thought a great blessing just to see a well-made mandala, since the impression goes into the subconscious and marks it on the genetic level, so that in some future life, one will automatically gravitate toward the Buddha realm. For the Tibetan Buddhist, the mandala displays exaltation, the realm of Buddhahood. This realm is achieved through a heightened state of clarity and stability of visualization, combined with deep insight and a radical transformation of the mind. The physical mandala is constructed as an aid to this visualization practice.
It seems like, especially here in America, we're trying to cultivate relationships with the Chinese for political reasons, and at the same time, we tolerate the Chinese occupation of Tibet, and that seems to be a little bit like a paradox somehow,
That is also,
Can I ask a question? One, since the Chinese have invaded, for the Tibetan people, would you say that in a lot of other cultures, after America or the Western influence comes in, the traditional culture changes a lot? Would you say that that has happened in Tibet, or has the culture of your people held strong and not changed a lot?
That is also a very big change in the Tibetan people, They have a more city outside of other country, that get more good education, Mostly we Tibetans live inside the Tibet we have no good transportation to go other countries.
Sure.
So now it's a very good educated, different, general knowledge to how is it going, So it's going very good.
So you think it's a positive aspect?
Right.
I have another question. It was written in the pamphlet and on the video that doing the sand mandalas in the different countries was blessed by the Dalai Lama, and that it was considered karmic seeds. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Also, that this sand mandala is not like a design or like an artist, they want to make a design. This is also, spiritual, and it's very holy, sand painting. I think that is. And when we done this, I think making something, making peace for other people, for oneself or other people, it get very good for, then better than you can to learn that, how can we practice on that mandala, kind of this different mandala. So it's getting more peace.
Có thật rất là ngon. Oh, sorry.
I've been interested in mandalas as a way of organizing buildings and plans and as artistic expressions for a long time. I think that through time, many architects and planners of different eras have used these mandalas. The earliest mandalas that I can think of are ones that were used by prehistoric man and can be found in some of the caves and in some prehistoric rock carvings. And they take the form of circles with crosses in them. And I believe that this was an attempt by early man to organize his physical world, its timing, its space, and also to organize his own aspirations about his spiritual values and psychological values. Architecturally, we can see mandalas being used in Mesoamerican architecture. For example, the Aztecs used the mandala as a form to denote a calendar. And the Aztec calendar is a way, really, of dividing time into day and nights, into days and into months, and even shows epochs or long time frames. The Aztecs also used the mandala in their architecture, as did the Mayan Indians. In Mayan work, we look at the Temple of Kukulkan, which is located in the Yucatan, and in the temple there is at the very center of the form what I call an axis mundi. The axis mundi is actually a vertical line, whether concrete or imagined, that goes from the center of the form from the bottom to the top, and it acts as an axis of transcendence. In Kukulkan, as well as in El Castillo, we see a platform with the place of great value, the sacred space, the temple, located at the top of the form. In Christian art, we find the same symbols being used. The symbol of the cross, or the symbol of the circle with the cross in it, or other concentric forms are used in Christian art. They're used as the Greek cross, the Latin cross. We find them in the plans of churches. We also find them in the rose windows, which are located above the transepts. We also find the mandalas used in Byzantine art and architecture, And I think one of the most fascinating examples of the use of the mandala is in Hagia Sophia, which is located in contemporary Istanbul. In Hagia Sophia, the mandala is not only used to organize the forms of architecture on the exterior, but I think more importantly on the interior, where the mandala becomes kind of a vault of heaven, with its dome penetrated by various light apertures so that light can flood the images on the inside of the dome. There are several Asian examples of mandalas used in architecture. One of the most famous that I'm thinking of is Borobudur, which is an 8th century temple form located in Java. The temple is really comprised of a series of platforms that are ringed by small shrines. And one is able to experience these platforms by circumnavigating each of the platforms, finding the entrance, and all of the entrances are very clearly marked, and then ascending to the next level or the next platform, and so on, so that one is not able to experience the temple without going around each of the platforms, finding the entrance, and essentially ascending. It takes the form of an upward spiral, so that in order to experience the mandala as a mandala, one needs to almost rise to a higher order of architectural and hence spiritual experience. The other example of Asian architecture that I've recently visited is in India, and I've also been to Nepal. In India, there's a temple at the end of a pilgrimage route in Badrinath, and that temple is located, on the apex or the high point of the city. And in order to really experience the temple, you have to walk around it 7 times, find the entrance, and then you're allowed to enter and experience the ceremonies or, just the space within the temple. Also, there are stupas that are examples of Asian architecture. These stupas are found in India, in Sanchi, and I visited them in Nepal. In Nepal, I visited a stupa that had just this wonderful graphic of the eye of the Buddha at the very top of the stupa. And I believe that the eye connotes the eye of the Buddha, the eye of enlightenment, and of course, eye is the way in which light enters the body, so that it seems to me to be a very literate symbol. Another example of Asian architecture is the Temple of Heaven, which is located in Peking. It's beautiful mandala, and I think is very well experienced by going into the interior, which is very colorful. Another example of Asian architecture is Angkor Wat, which is located in Cambodia, and which can best be seen as a mandala from the air, where you really can see all the components. This site is currently being restored by the Cambodian government.
The mandala, though an ancient form, is a universal motif that continues to influence our contemporary artists. The monks begin each session with meditation and prayer. The creation of the mandala and this daily spiritual practice attracted many members of the community. Each morning, the museum space was transformed into a meditation hall. Sacred symbols abound throughout the mandala. They represent some aspect of the deity and the deity's universe. The Wheel of Dharma is one of the 8 sacred symbols of Buddhism. It represents the unity of all things and symbolizes Buddha's teachings, which initiated the turning of the Wheel of Dharma, or cosmic law. The 8 spokes of the wheel stand for the 8-fold path leading to the cessation of suffering. Tibetan Buddhists believe that the seed of enlightenment in each person's mind can be nourished by visualizing and contemplating the symbolic meanings contained within a mandala. Through this tantric practice, the initiate attempts to integrate these qualities and attain enlightenment for the benefit of all.
This design we call the mandala, and in this case mandala means always 3-dimensional, and this 2-dimensional mandala is a representation of the 3-dimensional mandala. And also there's many different ways to make mandala. We can make from the sand, also colored rice, precious stone like coral, turquoise, and also 3-dimensional like model. Yeah, there's so many different ways to make mandala. This is made from sand, colored sand. And also, each mandala has different design and different deity, and this mandala has 722 deities, and some mandala has only 5 and 13 or 32 or 62, something like that. And each mandala has principal deity, so all the mandalas are a manifestation of the principal deity. In this case, the principal deity is Kalachakra, and this whole design is manifestation of the Kalachakra deity. There is so many different ways to depict the deity. Sometimes we use the characters, the letters, and also sometimes a dot and deity's form, instrument which they hold in their hand. And these letters, colors are associated with the colors of the deity, and those are the initials of the deity. And there is 88 deities, usually we call the cemetery deities. And this mandala is related with so many different things, like also it's related with the cosmic, like for example there's 6 circles from inside, earth, water, fire, wind, space, and wisdom. And on the earth there is moon, and at that corner there is sun. It's talking about our cosmic, our world, how our world exists. There is 6 animals. They pull the chariot, and chariot contains the deity. There's in each chariot there's 2 deities, male and female. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 for the directions, and 1 for the above, one for the below. They are kind of protector of the mandala. They protects the mandala.
I began experimenting with diagrams and drawings and mandala-like pictures as a way of organizing information in a visual way rather than in verbal lists. And people working with problem solving would put down information diagrammatically, and it was an experience that I've had, and I'm sure that clients have had, where they would get a clear picture of what their problem was. And there was an instant when they moved from feeling that they had a problem to experiencing the solution. And I find that this is a very valuable tool in working with problem solving. It's a kind of a healing and a real sensation of going from the problem to the solution. I also became aware of the work that Carl Jung had done with mandalas. And Carl had found himself drawing and producing mandalas in a time of his life when he was very in searching and trying to discover for himself something about what his life work should be. It also followed pretty closely on his split with Freud. Out of this experience of drawing mandalas himself, Carl found it very significant to have his own patients draw mandalas, because he found that when a person was feeling very ill at ease and that their life was in a way falling apart, that the mandalas were a way of holding things together and a way of centering.
Navajo Indians are also known for sand paintings, which are used in their healing rituals. The medicine man uses sand, pollen, or charcoal from a tree struck by lightning to create the magic circle. A sick child in the circle absorbs the power of the golden sun god and the eagle. When the ceremony is finished, the painting is destroyed. Each person involved is permitted to help themselves to a pinch of colored powder that now has healing powers. The Kalachakra mandala is dedicated to peace and physical balance for all individuals and the world. The Dalai Lama says the Kalachakra deities create a favorable atmosphere, reducing tension and violence in the world. It is a way of planting a seed, and the seed will have karmic effect. During formal ceremonies, the monks don their distinctive yellow hats, symbolic attire of the Gelugpa order of Tibetan Buddhism. This order has served as the state religion in Tibetan culture for over 300 years. The mandala, made in the spirit of impermanence and non-attachment, is ritualistically dismantled. The deities are removed from their positions before the mandala is swept towards the center. Individually and as a community, we were blessed by the presence of the monks and their teachings of wisdom and compassion. Hopefully, this will inspire you to see that our world is a living mandala and to know that all of us are inherently Buddhas. Blessed sand is offered to the environment. As a source of energy, it becomes an agent of change. We need not to ask why the mandala must be destroyed, but to understand the process as being forever continual. Although symbolism requires name and form, what is symbolized through the mandala ritual is formless. The ultimate mandala is in the mind. This is a wisdom that understands emptiness and allows the power of transformation to take place.